Hello. I am Ben Pick. Thank you for coming back to the second episode of Running to Write, where I give questionable writing advice through running metaphors. Before diving into the meat of this episode, I want to give a little backstory and explain what I intend for this series. I'm here creating this content not as an established author or as a writing professor. Those vlogs and podcasts are already out there. I ingest them on a regular basis if you want any recommendations for other writing resources. I'm using this series to describe my pitfalls and how I managed to stand up after falling on my ass a few times, both externally and internally. This is my effort to help other like-minded people with a story they want to tell find the best way to turn it into something to be proud of. The writing process is a struggle, but if I can churn out a halfway decent manuscript after 10 years, then anyone can do it, and honestly, in less time. My first episode was all about getting started. Today, I am continuing on that initial inspiration, where that flash of insight or adrenaline has worked its way out of your system. In other words, you passed the first mile. Good job. Now you found out that all of your well-laid plans and pacing expectations have been utterly ignored. Now you're left with a daunting task to accomplish and are aimlessly charging ahead. Here it's imperative to hit a proper stride and form good writing habits that will carry you through to the end. Over the course of the second mile, the crowded gaps between racers open up. This allows you to focus less on passing the person immediately in front of you and more on making sure your feet are hitting the ground correctly, that your hands aren't clenched, and that you aren't bobbing from side to side. As you adjust, inconsistencies will throw you off. To shift back to writing every day is a wonderful goal, except when missing one day cascades into an entirely broken rhythm. Personally, I set aside an hour multiple times a week for both running and writing. For running, I devote 3 days a week, with smaller workouts in those gap days. For writing, I work best aiming for 4 days with 2 sessions of 30 minutes each. Typically, one session is between work and dinner, and the other one is at the end of the night. Those aren't the only periods of writing that I have, but they are the minimums that I strive for. With all that in mind, here are 5 strategies I've used to set a good writing pace. Number 1, adjust your mood and mindset. When my workday is overly stressful, my first session tends to be an all-out sprint, where I get down as much as I can as quickly as possible and work out those frustrations. In the gap between sessions, I then process what I wrote and think of ways for improvement. This allows me to start my second session by refining poorly conceptual ideas before moving on. On the other hand, if that workday was emotionally or mentally draining, then that first session tends to be slow as I warm up and stretch my thinking into a more creative mindset. This takes time, and on my worst days, I do not set high expectations. This brings me to number 2. Know that 0 words are okay. Life is a mess. There will be days where you lack the motivation to write even a single word. I found it best on those days to still write 1 sentence, simply to have a sense of accomplishment. Even if tomorrow you completely rework that garbage sentence, I've always found that it's easier to rewrite something than it is to face the dreaded blank page. Number 3, lie to yourself. I have forced myself to write a single sentence, promising to stop once it's written. I have used this to write multiple pages when I didn't think I had the willpower to write a single sentence. Number 4, forgive yourself. No matter what, do not beat yourself up. There will be days where that blinking cursor doesn't so much as move in an hour. I have a rule. When I stare at the computer screen for 10 minutes without moving, I know it's time to stop. Similarly, coming back at a later day to find what you wrote to be appalling trash should not be a setback. Instead, understand what you were going for and strive to fix it. If it's beyond repair, then chop it and find some way to work that character development or plot reveal elsewhere. Even the crappiest sentences can be reworked or salvaged in some way, if only for character motivations that you, the author, are privy to. If these motivations are then good enough, then build them back into the story. And number 5, reward yourself. Have you written consistently for an hour without checking your phone? Then take a nice walk outside or run upstairs to grab a cookie. Like my dog, being highly food motivated, I will set short-term goals that result in cookie breaks. It doesn't only have to be food. When I write consistently during the week, I will allow myself to watch an extra show on the weekend. It's no coincidence that January 2019 was a massively productive month for me. I had set a goal of finishing an iteration of a novel, and the reward was a video game I had been anticipating for years. From the end of November through January, I wrote almost every day, so I could achieve that goal and earn that reward. Create your own rewards to motivate you. Maybe make a point-based system where you write for X number of hours or write X number of pages and trade that in for something you really want. Those are 5 ways I've used to create good writing habits. Thank you for joining me on the second episode of my series. Let me know in the comments below what good writing habits you have, or your longest streak of consecutive writing days. I am Ben Pick. Writing to Write comes out every Monday night. Please share, like, and subscribe. See you next time. Until then, use those good habits to keep writing.